Awesome. Hello, Kara Secure viewers, and thank you for joining me today. Like so many of you, I am a raving fan of Kara Secure. They certainly have the best coverage, we know that, but they also have amazing customer service and tremendously helpful resources. So I'm grateful to them for all they do for our practice, as well as all the ways that they support the profession, including sponsoring these programs. I also appreciate you for tuning in. I'm Kim Clapp, founder of Assistance for Chiropractic Excellence. And for over 25 years now, I've continuously been managing my husband, Dr. Tom's practice. We're in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I've been coaching CA since 2000. So, with that experience in mind, if you have any questions at all, hiring, training, practice systems, just post them either today or after the show, and I will be happy to get back to you. So, today we're going to be talking about systemizing the new patient phone call. And I'm sure you've heard that you'll never get a second chance to make a first impression. As a matter of fact, Princeton University studies show that our initial judgments of other people are formed within 1/10 of 1 second. So when it comes to first impressions, there are no redos, no do-overs, no rewind button. So stop and think about how much does a bad first impression cost? So consider your case average, if you will. Let's say it's $4,000. So what would it cost your office to lose that prospective patient? Well, it doesn't just cost your practice that $4,000 if your new patient doesn't return. Instead, multiply that 4,000 by all their future referrals, for their spouse, each child, their friends, your coworkers. It's staggering. So also, money aside, there's no way for the doctor to help people that a CA can't schedule. So everyone who calls your office should be treated with that care, concern, and respect. Now, this scene from Pretty Woman is perfect for this concept.
May I help
No,
you?
thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Do you remember me?
No, I'm sorry.
I was in here yesterday. You wouldn't wait on me?
Oh,
You work on commission, right?
yes. Big mistake. Big.
Huge. I have to go shopping now.
So we do not want to have that big mistake, big, huge happen on your phone with a prospective new patients. Speaking of other mistakes, if you call a business, no one enjoys being placed on hold. Think about you feel when you call, let's say you're a CA and you call an insurance company for benefits and you're stuck on hold. How frustrating and annoying is that, right? Now, consider this. You're actually getting paid to sit on hold and it still sucks. So why would you want your patients feeling that way? People don't like waiting on the phone any more than they like waiting unnecessarily in your office. And I love this cartoon. The caption is, "Thank you for continuing to hold. Your wait time is approximately 70 minutes. If you'd like to pretend you're poking me in the eye, press 1." The bottom line is this: to hold on to your patients, avoid putting them on hold whenever possible. And just my opinion, an automated phone answering system is not a very warm, friendly, or fuzzy first impression. And maybe a computerized voiced in that web, I'm sure you've called them, the this number for this department. Is that really the kind of first impression you want in your practice? Is that congruent with the extraordinary new patient experience that creates raves and referrals? Probably not. So let's take a moment and talk about how to make a better phone connection. And really, I find if you build it, they will come. And obviously, like you just saw, you want to be prepared. So what that means is to have your new patient intake forms handy. That means at every phone station in your practice. That's why this is one of the few paper forms that we use in our office, because it's actually more convenient. We can answer the phone in our break room without needing a computer. But otherwise, you'd have to put that prospective new patient on hold if you're not prepared. And we just like we talked about, that sends the wrong message from the get-go. So that's why we want to be prepared. Now, basic phone etiquette dictates you want to answer the phone as soon as possible. Definitely before 3 rings, so that people don't get the wrong idea that either you're closed or that they've called the wrong number. And before you even answer the phone, visualize a prospective new patient on the other end whose appointment depends on your telephone skills, because it actually does. So make your first impression absolutely fantastic. Now, personally, I like to imagine my ideal new patient, which would either be the Dalai Lama or David Beckham calling the schedule, depending on the day and my mood. But you want to focus on having that present time consciousness. Whatever you're doing, if you're having a conversation with a coworker or doing something on the computer, you want to make sure that you stop and give 100% attention to the phone call. And so I find it's really easy if before I pick that phone up, I take a deep breath and then exhale out any stress. And of course, you want to remember to smile. People can hear it in your voice. If you have to rely on a mirror next to your phone or a sticker that helps you smile, you go for it, but you just might be in the wrong wrong position because for the most part, CAs are pretty upbeat, happy people, at least in our office. Speaking of upbeat, you want to use an upbeat, pleasant, and professional tone for your greeting. Now, we like to start by incorporating our attitude of gratitude, since gratitude is one of our practice core values. That's why we begin our greeting with thank you, and we end our greeting with our name, because it greatly increases the chance that they're going to remember it and use it. And that helps make that connection. So remember, one of our goals is to build a connection. So before we pick up the phone, we visualize, exhale, smile, and say, thank you for calling First Choice Chiropractic. This is Kim. Now, at this point, the vast majority of people on the other end of the phone say, hi, Kim, this is fill in the blank with their name. And voila, we've bridged the gap. We've made a connection and we're on a first name basis. How simple is that? But the bottom line is the first impression is the one that lasts. So let's talk about that new patient intake form. Ours is called our prospect profile. It's just two-sided. And we keep them, like I said, at every phone station, and they're made into pads. But first of all, keep in mind, your client's never going to see this form. It's an internal form. It's just for you. So it's your handy helper or cheat sheet, if you will. So make it really easy for everyone on your team to get complete information from any prospective new patient who calls. Script it all out. I often joke that we've made this form so easy, even Dr. Tom could complete it correctly. And that's saying a lot because he's a big vision person, not so great at details. Anyway, we're done throwing him out of the bus. But when it comes to scheduling over the phone, it's doubtful that every team member has been in your practice since day one. So if you're unfamiliar with the patient's name who's on the phone, caller ID aside, just ask, have you ever been here before? And if yes, we find out the date of their last visit. If not, we find out if they've ever seen a chiropractor before. And if they have, we want to find out how recently. That way, if they have current x-rays on file at that office, they could minimize the ones taken at our office. Plus, recent chiropractic care obviously affects remaining insurance benefits. Now, instead of asking how they heard about us, we prefer to plant the seed and ask, were you referred by one of our clients or a healthcare professional? Because we like to assume from that very first contact that, of course, they must have been referred to our office. Everyone refers to us, hint, hint. But if not, then we find out how they did hear about us. Now, the next step, number 3, is to get their critical information. Obviously, name, date of birth. And we've actually specifically asked their age so we don't have to grab a calculator or do math. I've got an English degree to find out if they're at least 18. If they are a minor, obviously, it would be a complete waste of their time to show up without a parent or guardian to authorize care and sign all the forms. We also obviously get their phone numbers and email and find out which number they prefer to be contacted. And then we move on to number 4, which is scheduling, and ask, are you scheduling for yourself, your children, or your entire family? And that's because our office focuses on family care. So we want to invite them, again, planting seeds, letting them know that it's pretty commonplace for our clients to bring their families in for care. And when it comes to actually setting up their appointment, the scheduling part, more choices isn't better. So I'm an ice cream fan. And if you go to Baskin Robbins for an ice cream cone, they have 31 flavors and therefore 31 choices. Now, Dairy Queen, on the other hand, has 3 choices: chocolate, vanilla, and twist. So think about for a moment how much easier it is and faster to decide at Dairy Queen. The fewer choices, the easier it is for a prospective client to feel comfortable scheduling. So keeping that in mind, we want to offer just 2 choices at a time. So if someone's calling in the morning, I'll say this morning or this afternoon. If it's later in the day, this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And then once we figure out which shift they're coming in, we narrow it down to the specific times. So again, 2 choices. Would 9:15 or 10:15 be better? In other words, we want to spoon feed them choices to keep it simple. And then also be accommodating as possible. Because if that prospective patient was referred to your practice by either a patient or another doctor, being accommodating is going to show special respect to the referrer. And that way the new patient believes it's going to make their visit extra special as well. It sets the tone for they themselves wanting to refer more people to your office. So they, oh, well, maybe that way the friends that I'm going to send in is going to get preferential treatment as well. So how we do that is just easily saying, oh, okay, well, since Jim referred you in, we'll make sure we can see you today if that works out best for you. Now, on the other hand, if the prospective patient found us online or through some other advertising, what's going to happen? If we can't be accommodating with the scheduling of their appointment, they'll go ahead and take whatever appointment time you offer. But if it's not their preference, or if it's not soon enough, what do you think they're going to do after setting up that appointment with you? Yep. After they hang up with you, they're just going to call another office for a more convenient time. And then now your office drops to plan B, and they may or may not call you back to cancel. So that's why it's really important to get people in as soon as possible. In our practice, we actually advertise same-day appointments for most new patients. Now, it really doesn't matter how long someone has been suffering, right? Because we know that most people don't call as soon as they have their first spinal insult, injury, or trauma, right? They typically wait until they can't deal with it any longer. But whenever they finally decide they want care, they want it now, which is why it's so important to get them in today or tomorrow at the latest. Speaking of scheduling, we then ask if they're scheduling for wellness or if they are experiencing any health problems. Again, we're planting the seed about wellness and lifestyle chiropractic versus merely relief-based or pain-based care. We also find out if their circumstance is related to an auto accident, a work-related injury, or a personal injury involving an attorney. We always clarify with involving an attorney because the majority of people consider an injury that they do to themselves, for example, gardening, to be a personal injury. Don't know what happened to that slide, but we also find out if they have any health insurance. And if they do, we ask them, do you mind sharing that information to save you time on your first visit and possibly save you money? Now, again, you can see the prospect profile form ensures that we get all the details that we need to verify coverage. And on the reverse of the form, we also keep those accident details in case it is an auto accident, a workers' comp injury, or a PI case, along with the rules that apply in our state. That way we don't have to keep those rules in our head, and we also have reminders on there for our CAs to get a doctor's lien signed when that's appropriate. Plus there's space to enter additional insurance policy information if they happen to have secondary or tertiary coverage. So we give each prospective new patient the option of either completing the health questionnaire or case history over the phone or electronically. Now, I know there are certain states that don't allow a CA to take a case history. Obviously, I don't want you violating any laws. But regardless of whether you are getting the information from them over the phone or electronically, the important part is you want the information in advance of the appointment, okay? In addition to demonstrating to that new patient that you're concerned about them and what they're dealing with, well, it also saves them time in the office. Plus, it virtually eradicates no-shows, a huge benefit to your practice. Because once that prospective new patient has invested the time and divulged their private health information, it's extremely rare that they're going to miss their initial visit. So the scripting on our prospect profile is, we'd like you to complete your health questionnaire so we can save you some time on your first visit. Do you have 10 minutes now to complete it with me over the phone, or would you prefer me to email or text it to you so you can fill it out yourself? Now, I am a huge fan of Form Doctor, completely customizable forms and HIPAA compliant. And that way it allows clients to provide their information securely. They can even upload their ID and insurance cards, and you can put them directly in your practice software or print them out or keep them as PDFs, whatever makes you happy. So what we just do is we log in and we enter the patient's name, email, phone, and the appointment date. And then we choose whatever form is appropriate depending upon their age. So maybe it's a regular health questionnaire, maybe it's a pediatric version, maybe they've had an auto accident. But we send them whatever they need and they get it instantly via text and email, and that way they can complete it on the laptop, phone, whatever. Now, if you want to save $50 on this amazing software through Form Doctor, and who doesn't like saving money, just use the promo code ACEKIM when you go to formdoctor.com. Again, I'm a huge fan and I'm happy to share my Form Doctor forms if you sign up with them as well. Now, all right, so we end the phone call by managing expectations about their initial visit. We want to put them at ease. So we want to make sure, obviously, that they know where we're located, because it's stressful when you get lost or when you're having to look hard for something. And if they're not going to be uploading their insurance cards and ID into Form Doctor, we ask them to bring them as proof of identification, because that is required. We let them know how long their first visit's going to take. And of course, when we do that, we pad the time. Initial visit in our office takes about 60 minutes, and we tell them, as you can see, 60 to 90, because we want to under promise and over deliver. That's how we get those happy, satisfied clients who stay, pay, and refer. But then we also reiterate what their appointment time is and let them know that we're looking forward to meeting them. Now, after that phone call and before the initial visit, of course, there's other steps that need to be taken to make sure that their first visit is extraordinary. So take those extra steps, send the confirmation email that shows them when their appointment is so there's no miscommunications, along with the link for directions to your office and hopefully photos of your practice. So we have photos of the doctors in that email as well as of our office building. So again, they feel comfortable before they even get there. Verify insurance benefits in advance whenever possible. Do what you can to make their visit super easy and super, super fun and minimize that in-office time. So one of the things we do is we do a mail merge with any additional first visit forms. That way their name, date of birth, ID, and date are all pre-printed in the appropriate fields. And then we organize them chronologically of who's going to be needing them and when. So maybe this is a form for the doctor. Maybe this is a form for an internal tracking form. But again, we want to have everything run as smoothly as possible and respect their time. And in addition to the automatic text reminder that we send out the day before, we actually call each new patient the day before to further make a positive connection. And again, another way to virtually eradicate no-shows with your new patients. So, this has just been a snippet of the multitude of ways that you can make that new patient experience extraordinary. And that's actually going to be my CA Excellence coaching topic next month in August. But if I can help you in with that or with this month's course on team building, and doesn't everybody need a course on team building after the craziness we've all been through? Time to reconnect with one another. Or if you need help with hiring or training for new CAs, HIPAA compliance, practice systems, again, here's how to reach me. I am happy to help. I will help with anything I can. So you can also go to my website, chiropracticassistance.com. You can just click or email me directly that way. But I'd love to help your team reach higher levels of excellence. And so again, I want to thank ChiroSecure for providing this forum to increase chiropractic success. Next week, your host is going to be Yvette Knoll from KMC, so be sure to watch it.